They are dream machines, race-bred by the world's finest sports car makers. Marques that we all aspire to own, being driven just as their maker intended. Fast, in close quarter competition, at the very limit, and in a season-long quest of endurance. 2018 has all come down to this. One final round, one final fling, for now at least, across the ditch at Hampton Downs in New Zealand. With both the CAMS Australian GT and Australian Endurance titles on the line, the tension in the laser plumbing and electrical Hampton Downs 500 pit lane was palpable. A number of drivers were poised to attack. The close season making both championships anyone's game.
It's a big deal for us. You know, we've had a couple of years really trying hard to get it all worked out, and a few trials and tribulations along the way. I mean, this is as big a deal as it gets for our little team. I rate it personally as high as some of our Bathurst wins, our other championship successes. So it's really, if we do, and it's a big if, because a lot of things are going to have to go right to do it, but here at Hampton Downs, this is the third year we've been here. The car generally has performed pretty well, so it'll be enormous.
I've been trying to win the Australian GT Championship for a long time now, and at the beginning of the year we had a goal, and we're so close right now. But over the course of the race, anything can happen. So I guess we're just going to have to pick our battles as the weekend unfolds a little bit, keep ourselves out of trouble, and hope the sun keeps shining.
I've dared to dream before, and I didn't like it, but I got to do it piece by piece, and it's just take it as it comes. You don't want to get ahead of ourselves, but if we can put it together, what a fairy tale.
Every season's good. We're with a fantastic team. The car's amazing. Obviously, we had disaster at Phillip Island, so really it hurt us in the championship, but it just makes the storyline a bit more exciting. We're still in championship hunt, and we're going maximum attack, no risk.
We're leading, so we just need a real good, strong finish here today with no mess-ups. That's our motto. We're really positive and excited about it.
The unique Hampton Downs circuit is set to enable the fireworks. The 3.8 kilometre international layout playing to the strengths of many cars in the field.
From the GT perspective, it just throws up a bit of a mix. It's got some high-speed aero, it's got some bumps, which is good. It's one of those tracks that's got real culture. It's a bit of everything. You've got the Mercs are always quick here. The Porsche, particularly in the wet, last year was a rocket ship. We're the sole Lambo. You've got a McLaren here. So there's something for everyone, and of course a couple of Audis, which are probably the closest to our car. So it's a great venue. The facilities are sensational, close to Auckland.
I actually haven't done the full circuit here, so it's pretty cool to get out here and taste it. I spent a lot of time here working, driver training, and to get out in such a cool car and such a cool series. Racing with a mate, although he's Australian, he's a good bugger, and we're in a good team, and it's been a good year.
Hi everybody, Greg Russ with you for the coverage. We're about an hour's drive south of Auckland for the running of the laser plumbing and electrical Hampton Downs 500. The grid, as you can see at the moment, is a sea of people, lots of fans here, and they're drawn to the fact that we have some real stars on the grid from both sides of the ditch as well. We have Bathurst winners and former Supercars champions. Before we get going, let's take a closer look at the qualifying race that determined the starting order for today's Big 500.
Rain and changeable conditions on Friday wasn't ideal for teams as they tried to perfect setups, but it dried for the qualifying race on Saturday. Peter Hackett and Dominic Story started from pole after topping pre-qualifying. Jeff Emery and Garth Tander, however, started at the back following a drive shaft failure. Stephen Richards was given a 5-second penalty for a breach of start procedure, something the now 5-time Bathurst winner was adamant he did perfectly. Congestion on the opening lap resulted in contact involving Scott Taylor and Tony Quinn. Tony Bates was also involved in the Audi he shares with Kiwi Daniel Gaunt. It damaged the driveline and forced Bates to limp back to the pit lane and into retirement from Saturday's action. Fraser Ross led briefly despite stalling as he left pit lane, but was caught by Story and the Porsche of John Martin and Liam Talbot. The result gave Hackett and Story provisional pole for the 500.
That was an amazing race.
Yeah, it was really tough getting temperature into the tyres early in the race. I knew the boys would have their elbows out a little bit, so we were probably a bit more aggressive than I wanted to be, but gave the car over to Dom, and fantastic stint by Dom at the end.
Yeah, I came out of the pit side by side with John. It was a bloody good race down into turn 2, and just held my own on the outside. I knew that if I kept it on the outside, I'd have a run on the inside, and he gave it his all, but managed to come out on top. And then
caught up to Fraser, and I knew that if I didn't get him quickly, then, to heat the front tyres up and open the opportunity for John to come back at me. So got that move done pretty quickly, and then from there it was pretty simple. Yeah, just used all the speed that this thing's got. So fantastic to win on Saturday.
Congratulations, guys. Well done.
Now, a post-race investigation took place this morning after a video review. Officials deemed that Hackett had not followed restart procedure correctly after a safety car period. They've been hit with a penalty that will see them start this race from the second row of the grid. Before we get going, let's quickly revisit the point standings.
It's close in the Australian GT Championship. Hackett still right in the hunt for the title he's gone so close to over the years. First, he'll need to beat the consistent Fraser Ross, and don't rule out a determined Stephen Richards or Jeff Emery. Max Twigg and Tony D'Alberto have extended their lead in the Endurance Championship, but Richards and Michael Armand are just 36 points behind, with Tony Bates and Daniel Gaunt also in contention.
Welcome back, everybody, to our coverage of the Laser Plumbing and Electrical Hampton Downs 500, final round of the Australian GT and Endurance Championships. Let's walk the grid before they get the 101 laps underway. In many respects, he's been Mr. Consistent throughout 2018. What's the approach heading into this one? You lead the points.
Yeah, I'm not going to take it any different. It's just another race. It's just another Sunday afternoon, but I'm fully aware of what lies ahead and the big task we've got. The great turnout for everyone, and hopefully we can put a great show for the finale of Australian GT.
The Walkinshaw Porsche team has been strong right throughout 2018. John Martin, looks like you're going to do the starting duties here.
Yeah. Jumping in for a skid straight up. So it's it's sort of the strategy we've run all year. We still have a chance at winning the championship here. So it's but we have to win the race. So it's just we're not going to compromise on anything, and we're just going for broke.
Dominic Story did a super job in yesterday's qualifying race. It's on here, but there's been a little setback with a penalty applied after a review this morning.
Yeah, Pete and I copped a penalty after the race yesterday. It was just a really, an easy mistake to make under the safety car restart. He sped up and then slowed down a little bit. So it was only a very small mistake, but costly because we've had to start from fourth instead of pole position today. But we retained our points for winning the race yesterday. So that's the main objective for us yesterday, was just to get those 20 points.
This weekend, Garth Tander is pairing with Jeff Emery, who won the 2017 GT title. This is a good combo. You're looking forward to this?
Yeah, mate. Looking forward to it. Shared the car with Jeff all year in the endurance races. So been part of the Joe McPem racing for a while now. So really enjoy it. It's great coming to New Zealand. Fantastic support here. So many people out on the grid. It's cool.
There was a bit of a setback earlier on in the weekend with an issue with the drive shaft. How are you going to tackle this today?
Oh, look, we moved forward in the qualifying race, which was the plan after that drive shaft failure in quali. So now starting inside second row, which is a fantastic place to be starting. So Jeff will start. He'll pass all these dudes before the first corner, and then we'll pull away. That's the plan.
No pressure. It's the middle part of a big 3 weeks for Tony D'Alberto. Bathurst, Hampton Downs, and then Gold Coast next weekend. Right now, the focus is this endurance title. Are you feeling confident? You got a little more points toward that yesterday.
Yeah, we did. We extended it slightly, but we've got a big job today. Can never discount Richo and Mikey Armand. They're a great pairing. Richo added to his Bathurst tail last weekend, so he's going good in himself. But the car's going good. Max is driving well. We think we've probably got a little bit of speed in hand on those guys, but it's a long race. Got to see how it pans out.
We're going to need a bit of luck today, I think, but you never know. We just got to hang around there all day, do the best we can, execute all the bits that we have to execute, and then we'll see where we end up.
There is a huge contingent of people here on the grid. Great atmosphere, and naturally from your partner, Laser Plumbing and Electrical, lots of people here as well.
Yeah, Laser have got a heap of guests here today. They all, they've supported this race for the last 2 years. They've supported us for the last 7 years. So it's been an incredible partnership, and it's nice that we can share the love across the ditch as well in New Zealand and Australia.
It's time to go racing then. The Hampton Downs 500, 101 laps ahead of us. Poleman is John Martin in the Porsche 911 GT3R. We're on board with him now. Alongside him is the championship leader, Fraser Ross. They're looking for the green lights. There they go. We are racing. A good start then from John Martin off the inside of the front row. Takes the lead down into turn one. Fraser Ross drops in behind him. 3 wide, a little bit further back. Everyone through the first turn nice and cleanly.
Pretty conservative start from everyone for the most part. Interesting strategies going on here. We've got a couple of pros in the mix. Obviously, John Martin taking a very commanding lead early on. We've got Beardo back there as well as in the Mercedes AMG. Everyone else has got the AMs in the car for the moment, so it'd be interesting to see how those strategies play out over the course of this race.
John Martin's opened a good lead in the opening couple of corners of this race. A little bit further back, we see Michael Armand and Max Twigg going door to door down the order. There is the number 1, Jeff Emery. The Valvoline Audi currently running in third place. Tucked up behind him is Craig Baird, one of the few pros in this motor race at this stage. They will change when we get to the pit stops.
Beardo's done an incredible job already to bump his way up the grid, just overtaking Jeff Emery at the moment, not making it too difficult for him, letting him go around the outside there, down at the hairpin. Really exciting circuit here at Hampton Downs as well. It's a very technical circuit. There's a lot of bumps. Obviously the extension that Tony Quinn put in a couple of years ago. A lot of bumps, a lot of interesting corners, wide open radius corners as well. A lot of undulation, which you always struggle to get on the television, but the drivers love coming here. Bit of a mix of weather on this side of the ditch as well.
Yeah, it's a really interesting circuit that plays to the strengths and weaknesses of every car out there. We're on board with Michael Armand taking first turn. Really downhill there. You can see a little bit of the elevation there. So the BMW, they've had a really strong season so far in 2018. They've been on the podium at both of the Australian Endurance Championship races. The best year that team has had in Australian GT. They're looking for another good result. They are in the championship hunt this weekend. On board again now with Armand down into the Porsche Dipper. Such a tight left-handed traction, so important, Carl.
That is a serious mistake he's made. He's just let Max Twigg through quite easily. It's a really tricky hairpin because your braking point is just on the crest there, so it's really easy to engage in the ABS a little bit too aggressively and go wide as he's done, and made it really easy for Max to get by.
Max, of course, a race winner at Phillip Island a little bit earlier in the year. Some fantastic drone shots over this Hampton Downs circuit. You can see the flow to the circuit. Some long loaded corners, really testing man and machine. We're now on board with Peter Hackett, currently running third out there on the road. Has a look up the inside now of Fraser Ross. 2 wheels on the grass.
Oh, contact made. I tell you what, Fraser Ross and McElroy Racing won't be very happy about that. Love to see another replay to see what happened there. Obviously, contact made. That was pretty definitive. I'm back on board with Peter Hackett.
And those 2 championship contenders as well, of course, running first and second in the standings heading into this weekend. And there is Fraser Ross, 2 wheels buried in the gravel. He's not going to get out of there under his own steam, so I wouldn't be surprised if we go safety car here to have that car pulled out of the gravel trap.
He's in a pretty vulnerable position. He is not going anywhere at the moment. He's going to need every bit of assistance he can get. As we go to a replay, so this is on board with Craig Baird. Peter Hackett's obviously going up the inside. I tell you what, it did look like Fraser Ross had a bit of a wobble midway through that corner in Pete's defence, but saying that, I just wonder if he'd actually committed to the turn. It's a tricky one, that one.
What's your take on that? How do you feel about it?
It was pretty marginal, considering they're both going for the championship. Rusty, there probably should have been a little less aggression on lap 2 of a long race.
Has he said anything on the radio? Is the car okay?
The car's fine. If we can get this pulled out of the sand before the field comes past, we're laughing, and we are. So great news.
Let you get back to it. Thank you.
Great job by the track workers there to get that McLaren out of the gravel, but it does have a puncture on the left rear though.
You've got to be kidding. To get that car out before the field came around, he's still on the lead lap, but he's going to have to pit now to replace that tyre.
Yeah, he's going to drop half a lap behind, even with the safety car out there. Depending when they release the field, this could very well be day done for Fraser Ross and Vivian Pagliacci sharing that car this weekend. The guys just having a quick look, changing the one tyre. By the look of it, time is their enemy. They can't afford to take too long in this one.
That was a pretty quick pit stop. The guys at McElroy Racing do a great job. He's off again. I reckon he's still going to be on the lead lap but he's going to have a lot of distance to make up.
So we are racing once again the Porsche 911, the Hot Wheels Car Care Products entry. John Martin at the wheel leads the field once more. Tucked up behind him though is now Craig Baird in that 222 Mercedes AMG GT3 down the long back straight up towards turn 2. Heavy braking zone. Good chance to pass. So we'll see a little bit further back. The local IMS Audi makes a move on Tony Quinn in the Aston Martin.
And what looks to be an interesting battle starting to take place up ahead. Craig Baird hunting down John Martin at the moment. 2 very different vehicles. That's what I love about the Australian GT Championship. The 2 vehicles you can see there, the AMG's typically been stronger under brakes than the Porsche over the course of the weekend. Obviously, the Porsche makes up for it in other places.
Yeah, the Porsche is typically so good on traction. The weight over the rear wheels allows it to slingshot out of the corners. He's going to need all of that here, though, now. Got Craig Baird shaping up for a move on John Martin. This is the battle for the race lead. Turning into the Porsche Dipper. Slightly wider line there from John Martin, trying to hold a little bit more apex speed perhaps, Carl.
A little bit more apex speed. There are a few different lines you can take through that corner, but it has helped Beardo to get a really strong run into that final section here at Hampton Downs. How's the rotation he's got there? Up the inside.
And wheel to wheel now. This is the battle for the race lead. Craig Baird up the inside on race leader John Martin in the Porsche. Baird will have the inside line. In fact, John Martin has already lost that spot. We have a new leader. Craig Baird takes the lead down into turn one. The Porsche drops into second.
I just wonder if John Martin's playing the long game here. Maybe just roll it out of the throttle just a little bit to make it a bit easier. He's probably going to settle in behind Craig at the moment and just focus on managing his tyres.
On board now with Peter Hackett, and we're just getting word that there's going to be a penalty for the number 63 Mercedes, who's involved in that contact with Fraser Ross a couple of laps ago. Just hearing that he is going to pick up a drive-through penalty. This is a game changer in the championship. Let's go down to Greg Rust with team manager Ben Eggleston.
There's a long way to go, but that's a bit of a blow. How do you feel?
A little bit gutted, but at the end of the day, I'm sure we'll come back pretty hard. Dom will be really pacing the car, and it's just one of those things, so we'll just push on.
Do you agree with it?
Oh, hard to say. I haven't seen any vision. Pete said that the car had a bit of a lose in front of him, then tried to come back on the track, and hard to say, really. So at the end of the day, we'll see where we end up.
So Peter Hackett rejoins the race. Out front, Craig Baird. We're now looking at the number one Audi, who has Max Twigg tucked up in behind his rear wing. So too the IMS Audi R8 LMS, driven by Johnny Reid, former A1 GP racer, of course. Ben, you might know Carl.
Yeah, absolutely. I used to race Johnny a fair bit in the A1 GP. He's been around for a long time as he goes for a move on Max Twigg, getting it done effortlessly, as you'd expect from someone of his calibre.
Welcome back to our coverage of the Laser Plumbing and Electrical Hampton Downs 500. This place is not just a racetrack, it offers so much more. Perfect for the corporate guest. There is an awesome kart track, four-wheel drive experience and advanced driver training as well. This is a destination for all sorts of events. There's all kinds of industry that complements the track facility as well. If you come inside the hub, grab a coffee, which they brew on site, and something to eat, you can enjoy it while watching the Toyota team work on their race cars here. This is the New Zealand headquarters for them. Why not try the simulators, have a run around Hampton Downs and check out the iconic cars that are always on display here. Right now, that includes the ex-Stone Brothers Falcon, run by Shane Van Gisbergen in the early part of his supercars career, and the Tasman Motorsport Commodore of the late Jason Richards and Kiwi hero Greg Murphy. The McLaren Heritage Centre is a must-see, celebrating the wonderful history of the late legend Bruce McLaren. There is all kinds of memorabilia here and some very special cars on display. One of the things that sets Hampton Downs apart is that they are big on experience here. The opportunity to come and do a hot lap with a professional and to even drive the track yourself. Whether you're a fan of the sport or not, it'll change your perspective. And the year-round schedule, which is packed, also includes lots of things that celebrate automotive culture, like gasoline and caffeine. So this is something of a must-see tourist destination and a great gateway to the Waikato.
Then a hive of activity as cars start to make their first of 3 stops throughout this race. We are looking at the number 63 AMG of Peter Hackett, who's on a bit of a charge out there. So too Max Twigg and Michael Armand, the Mercedes and BMW, chasing down that number 1 Valvoline-sponsored Audi. Jeff Emery at the wheel, last year's Australian GT champion, doing a solid job out there at the moment.
As we see Peter Hackett storming off into the distance, he is a man on a mission off the back of that pit lane drive-through penalty. one of the fastest guys out there on track, almost matching Craig Baird for lap time, not too far off in pace. So those AMGs are obviously working very well at the moment.
Speaking of AMGs, there is the matte grey and green one looming in the mirrors of Fraser Ross. Now, this is a defining moment. Fraser Ross at the tail end of the lead lap following his early dramas. Race leader Craig Baird now beginning to sweep him up as he carves ever forward. He's been such a dominant force this weekend, Craig Baird, since he climbed into the car at the start of this race.
Fraser Ross right now will be doing everything he possibly can to keep his championship alive. Craig Baird obviously got the headlights flashing, trying to put the pressure on Fraser to make a mistake. So far hasn't made a mistake, but I just don't think he's got enough pace to keep Craig Baird behind him and stay on that lead lap.
It's unfortunate, Fraser Ross. This is important because if there's a safety car, Fraser Ross stays on the lead lap. As soon as that Mercedes goes past him, as it does right now, that is a defining moment in the 2018 Australian GT Championship. Craig Baird puts a lap on Fraser Ross. The Toto Opticoat McLaren now one lap down. His chances of a championship this time very, very long.
And the 911 in the pits at the moment, I believe John Martin is out, Liam Talbot is in. A few adjustments being made, just trying to tweak it for that long haul still to come.
Was a change to the left rear on the Walkinshaw Porsche. Just explain that.
Yeah, we're just trying to adjust the sort of the damping really on it. We actually got the right-hand side in the stop, but because the canister had moved around, we couldn't get the other side one in my stop when I got out. So, yeah, we just rectified that then. But, yeah, car's super loose at the moment, so we're just trying to settle it down a little bit. Track could still come to us a little bit this afternoon. Liam's still doing a good job. It's just not exactly ideal at the moment.
Thank you.
Liam Talbot makes a move on Max Twigg. He's the first of our driver changes in this race. John Martin will have to jump in there again a little bit later on.
So we jump on board with Liam Talbot. Far out, he's got some understeer in that thing. Generally speaking, it just looks a bit decoupled at the moment. Let's see it into this final corner.
We saw John Martin run wide through here earlier, didn't we?
Liam's had one of the best seasons. He's driving the best he's ever driven, but he's clearly battling this car at the moment as we have the number 24 KFC car, Tony Bates in the pit lane with Daniel Gaunt about to jump in.
Fuel already going into that car. Tony Bates, who's been battling away there, steps from the wheel of the Audi. The Melbourne Performance Centre crew poised here, so fuel is now done. Gaunt stepping behind the wheel. DeBoer on the stopwatch, just making sure that this all happens with a seamless kind of sense of calm. Just double checking something on the left rear here, possibly a change even. Final part of the driver's change completed. Tony heading into the pit bunker, and we might try and doorstop him. Were you concerned a little about something in the left rear? Something in the left rear?
A little vibration, but nothing too much, no, nothing to worry about.
Well done.
Cheers.
Gary Pair victorious at Phillip Island a little bit earlier on in the year. So we see that car about to head back out onto the track. Flurry of activity in pit lane. This is the 63 Mercedes. Peter Hackett now about to climb out of that car and Dom Story to jump in.
And Max Twigg also in the pits. Obviously minimum driver times being completed at the moment.
So that will see the AM driver out of the car. Tony D'Alberto about to climb in. You can see the booster seat there. And slightly smaller in stature than is Max Twigg. Let's go down to Greg Rust, who's got Peter Hackett.
You probably had a few laps to think about it. Wasn't ideal what happened with Fraser. Just give us your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I want to say sincere sorry to Fraser. I mean, we've had some great battles all year and, you know, we've swapped a few stickers and we've never made real contact. But from my position, he had a really big moment on the first part of the corner. I thought he was going to spin and I just stuck my nose down the inside and he just came back across in front of me and we made contact, and, you know, after that, it just put my head down and tried not to make any mistakes. And, you know, endurance racing, you're never really out of it.
He's absolutely right. You are never really out of it. He's still in a good position. Pete put in a stellar stint there to keep himself on the lead lap as we jump on board with Craig Baird, who's been out there for a seriously long time.
It's a long old stint for Beto, isn't he? He started the race in that 222 Mercedes. He's moved himself into the race lead, although it looks like he's about to head into pit lane. We just see him uncoupling the drinks tube. So we're riding on board with the 222. Scott Taylor Motorsport entry. And Team Boss will climb into that one. Scott Taylor himself. Craig Baird then into the lane, out of the race lead.
And a pretty interesting strategy from these guys to put Beardo in right from the start of the race, do maximum allowed time as the pro driver. He's got almost 2 laps lead on everyone, obviously still having to complete this pit stop. As we see Scotty open the door, get Beardo out of the car, and it's up to Scotty now to take the reins.
Getting out of the car now, Scotty getting ready to jump in, fuel going in nice and smoothly here. Craig assisting with the driver change, just making sure that all goes nicely. Tyres now starting to go on. Doesn't look like there's anything in the way of changes being made. System door closed, and we'll see if we can get a quick word with Beardo. Hey, that was a mighty effort by you. Well done.
Thanks, mate. Yeah, a little bit knackered.
I'm not surprised. You mean it's been a tougher week for you in that regard? You feel like taking it back to 100% now?
I'm okay. I wouldn't have wanted to do another 55. So we'll see how Scotty goes. Obviously, he's got a lung issue. So I'll see you at 5 o'clock.
Okay. It's a solid performance there from Craig Baird. He's been really struggling this weekend. He's been under weather. Seen him kicking around, not his usual bright and bubbly self. So stellar effort to get 54 laps in that Mercedes. Now Scott Taylor at the wheel.
Not only that, these cars are incredibly physical. This circuit is more physical than most as well. There's not much of a straight to have a break. The straight itself is a curve. So, yeah, well done to Beardo.
BMW team SRM now in the pits, and someone different on the refuelling rig. Laser Plumbing and Electrical Boss, I believe, was the man down there. We'll send Greg to go and have a chat with the man who just plugged fuel into the BMW.
So how much instruction was there and how much sort of rehearsal?
Oh, we last night we had a bit of a play and had a few goes at the dry runs and that, but no, it was great. I loved it. It was really fun. It's really great being on the other side of that red line out there.
Business is a pressure environment, but so too a pit stop. Did you feel the nerves and what?
Yeah, it wasn't too bad. You know, I trusted the guys around me. They were talking in my ears here and let me know that what was going all well. So no, it's all good.
Great stuff.
And more pit stops then. This is the 63, the Eggleston Motorsport run. Peter Hackett and Dom Story entry in the lane then for what should be their last stop of the race. Fuel goes in as we see Trent Alberto leaving a pair of 11s as he exits the lane.
And a busy pit lane it is at the moment. We've got the 911 in as well. John Martin about to jump back in to finish this race off. He's going to be feeling pretty fresh heading into the final run.
This weekend at Hampton Downs saw plenty of action beyond the Australian GT cars, with a range of lunchtime activities and 4 support categories on track. The BMW Race Driver Series featured a huge and diverse field taking on a 1-hour race. With a mix of single and 2 driver teams competing, the compulsory pit stop saw the event's solo drivers run around their car before being allowed to continue in the race. Kent Bagent put up a gallant fight, but Warwick Mortimer took the win in his BMW M3 GTR. The Pirelli Porsche Championship saw close competition for the whole meeting, with Michael Neville, Connell Dempsey, Brian McGovern and Australian GT competitor Scotty Taylor all in the mix, Neville taking honours for the weekend. The Ssangyong Racing Series, as always, dished up some great action. The final race saw Christina Orr-West lead home the squabbling pack, but Callum Hedge managed to streak clear and show the field a clean pair of heels. The undisputed crowd favourites at Hampton Downs were the Central Muscle cars, with the loud classic brutes putting on a fantastic show. Plenty of incidents and drama gave even greater importance to the final race, coming down to a 3-way fight between John Midgley, Dean Perkins and Angus Fogg, with Midgley just holding off the charging Perkins.
You were pushed right to the line. You got nice and sideways out of the final turn.
Yeah, the car's pretty loose, and at the end of the weekend we don't have much for a tyre lift, so gave it my all, and luckily that was good enough for P1.
Dean, did you get a sense that you could maybe grab him by the line?
I was reeling him in slowly, but running out of time. But congratulations to Johnny. Drove a really good race, and fortunately my mirror's full. Angus was right there. Anyway, that's as hard as we could try.
Mighty Mustang's got some battle scars from the weekend. This must be a little something for you, given what had happened earlier in the weekend.
Yeah, that was a grouse clean race. I think I got a new lap record, and Johnny and Dean drove immaculate like they do. Awesome. Johnny's quite a special driver. If you look at his lines, you can see how he looks after his tyres. And got us old buggers. We've got to do a bit of learning, I think.
Congratulations, lads. Well done.
Thank you.
But this is now the battle for second place. John Martin versus Dominic Story, the Mercedes driver. Charged up to the back of the Porsche. Both of them hunting down Scott Taylor. He's still in the lead from that stellar performance by Craig Baird in the first part of this motor race. Dominic Story is so quick, really challenging the back now of that Porsche.
As we go on board with Dom Story, putting a lot of pressure on John Martin at the moment. Quick dive up the inside. Can he get it done? John Martin giving plenty of racing room. They're going to go side by side, up over the crest into the Porsche hairpin.
Late on the brakes for Dom Story is around the outside. It's going to be dusty and dirty out there. In fact, it's so dusty and dirty, he's 4 wheels off the track. Traverses the gravel and rejoins. No harm done at this stage, but he's lost a lot of ground to John Martin now.
He's lost a lot of ground, but he's got the pace at the moment. He's the fastest man on track in that Mercedes AMG. I've no doubt that he'll be back on the tail end of him very soon as we see Scott Taylor reeling out very consistent lap times, but maybe not enough to keep these two at bay.
Yeah, these two absolutely on a mission. I'm feeling it's just a matter of time, unfortunately, for Scott Taylor, who's done a really solid job out front since taking over from Beardo. But it is now between Martin and Story, the battle for second and third.
Really impressed with John Martin at the moment. We've got Scott Taylor still in the lead at the moment. Great battle for second and third, but it's about to be the battle for the lead.
Yeah, the Porsche and Mercedes with Dom Story up the inside now. Scott Taylor's just seen him coming. Left a little bit of room in the inside of the high pull hairpin. Up now over the crest, down towards the hairpin. They're tucked up down the inside line. John Martin's got defensive contact. Contact between Martin and Story. He's pushed the Porsche wide. The Mercedes up the inside, takes the race lead. Carl, wow. It's all kicking off here at Hampton Downs.
That is such a tricky one. Obviously, the run out of the hairpin was compromised, overtaking Scott Taylor. Contact was absolutely made there as we see Dom Story letting him back through. Interesting. That's the honourable thing to do in this situation.
Yeah, good to see that sort of sportsmanship. These two locked horns in terms of the championship scenario. Great to see Dom Story just ceding that spot.
And you can clearly see John Martin's exit was compromised. He's gone defensive. You're allowed to do that. Dom's gone up the inside. I just wonder if he braked a little bit early there. It's hard to kind of say with his onboard footage.
There's drama, though. We are hearing that Dom Story is going to pick up a drive-through penalty for the contact. The car now in second place. He's going to have to tour the pit lane. That's going to drop him well down the order.
They're gutted at Eggleston Motorsport, from what I can gather.
It should be a time penalty.
So the team here are pleading the case. They're talking with Chris Papadopoulos, who has Formula One experience. Ben's put the headsets on. This is not going to... Rachel's going up to Ken Collier, Rachel Wagg. They're not happy. How do you feel, mate? I'm with Ben Eggleston.
Oh, mate, I think it's a bit severe, to be quite honest. I mean, no one really gained or lost anything out of it. At the end of the day, we should just bat on towards the end. I mean, even a time penalty, but a drive-through is way too harsh. It just takes you out of the game. So, anyway, they've given it, so there's not much we can do about it.
That is a really tough one for Dom Story and Eggleston Motorsport. He did do the right thing by letting John Martin back through, but unfortunately there is no redress rule in Australian GT. It's just supercars that have that rule. Good thing is, with a pit lane drive-through penalty like this and a lot of laps to go, if there's a safety car late in this race, they're back in the hunt again.
Yeah, that is a blow to their championship hopes as well. Have to really fight their way back forward now to be in with a chance. Speaking of fighting their way forward, this is Tony D'Alberto now, closing up on the back of John Martin. Garth Tander is in this one as well. Got a front three locked together, and not too far off the back is Dan Gaunt as well. This motor race is really going to start to come alive. Porsche versus Mercedes versus Audi.
This is a serious battle that's starting to take shape here. We've got a lot of pressure again on John Martin. That guy has been under the most amount of pressure of anyone in this entire race. Dan Gaunt looking pretty racy back there in fourth place. He's probably going to be thinking, if these guys start battling soon, which they are about to, there's a battle here for second place. Garth Tander getting the job done easily on Tony D'Alberto.
A good late move there from Garth Tander. Move to the inside, now finds himself going a little bit defensive just to cover off Tony D'Alberto, just to try and persuade him away from launching an attack down here at turn 2. So Tander now slots into second He now sets off in pursuit of the Porsche. John Martin, who's been resolute in his defence thus far, but we know that Porsche isn't as healthy perhaps in terms of the handling. Been fighting it all day. Just drops a wheel there. Does Garth Tander, leaving nothing on the table in that number 1 car.
Garth Tander is one of the hardest racers going around. He's not the type of guy you want to see in your rear vision mirrors at this stage in the race.
Tander just staring down the rear end of that Porsche. You can see a little bit of damage there from the earlier contact. Down now through the Porsche hairpin. This is where the Porsche really, in theory, gets some good drive, but Tander's gone with him out of that tight left-hander. Just sticks the nose out, just trying to worry Martin into a mistake. Sticks the nose up the inside, too far back this time. Martin hangs on this time.
I tell you who's pacing, that is Jeff Emery. He's been walking away from the TV screen, not able to look at it. This is tense, isn't it?
Yeah, mate, she's on now. We wouldn't have thought. I mean, obviously the other guys have had some bad luck, and we've had some pretty good pace today. Obviously we struggled a bit in qualifying, but our car's come on really strong today when it's needed.
Fingers crossed, hey?
Yeah, no, our fingers are well and truly crossed.
Tander now all over the back of Martin. Had a little bit of a look down there at turn 2 through the swampy curves. Now up to that long, loaded right-hander. The Audi's just got so much more pace through this middle sector, Carl.
Yeah, there's a lot more pace through there. I don't envy Garth Tander here, also having Tony D'Alberto, one of the fastest, handiest drivers you can have in a GT car. Just sort of waiting in the background there, putting a little bit of pressure on himself. And then Dan Gaunt just sitting there waiting for something to happen up ahead.
He's just loitering there with intent, really, isn't he? Front 4, almost line astern now. 81 laps on the board. Down again into the Porsche hairpin. Tander is up on the gearbox of that Porsche once again. Down now into this long right-hander. We saw Tander show the nose a lap or 2 ago. And again, he turns in early, Carl.
That is a tough place to pull off a move. The risk versus reward. It's really, really challenging to get that done there. Poking his nose in, I'm really impressed with John Martin up front. He's battling with that car. You can clearly see the character, the personality of that car is really struggling. Tander again poking his nose in the most unlikely place.
Just looks like there's more turn in that car. The rear end looks far more settled. You know, the Porsche have been struggling with understeer. They now put a lap on Scott Taylor, the former race leader. A stellar job in his stint. Front 4 does a gentlemanly thing there and allows the front 4 through. Garth Tander has now also got a mirror full of Tony D'Alberto. So coming to the hairpin again. Tander has a little bit of a half look. Doesn't get the job done this time through. Just, again, trying to scare John Martin off the racing line, scare him into a mistake.
The Mercedes AMGs have been so strong all weekend, but come the end of this race, a little bit of rubber down, and the Audis have really come into their own.
How's the move from Garth Tander? He's closer than he's ever been all race long. Just about got alongside through the long right-hand sweeper there. Up the hill now to start another lap. Tander is a little bit too far back this time through. I get a feeling that's maybe where he's got to do it. Try and get the drive off that final corner. He seems so much stronger than the Porsche through that part of the circuit.
We spoke about the strengths and weaknesses. You can clearly see that here. We've got 3 different manufacturers, 1, 2, 3 at the moment. Braking ability of the Audi is pretty sensational into that hairpin there. But you can see the power down that Porsche has. It's pretty hard to compete with that.
So Martin was just maybe half a car width wide at the Hypal hairpin. He was online at the Porsche dipper. But Tander now, he's never been this close before. He looks left, he looks right. Sticks the nose up the inside, not this time through. Martin closes the door. But Tander comes back through the middle part of the corner, almost side by side through the corner exit. He's now in the slipstream.
I tell you what, that is incredible racing. The respect that these two guys have for each other, but the run that Tander's now got down the front straight here. Is he going to get it done?
How's the move? Tander up the inside. He left it late, tucked up in the slipstream. The celebrations in the Audi pit. If Tander can hold on to that spot, Jeff Emery will be champion. Martin immediately looks to fight back. Tander defensive down towards turn 2. He's got to be careful though. D'Alberto's lurking in the background as well. This battle is just absolutely electrified in the closing stages of this race.
And that strategic play from Tander, I mean, putting the pressure on that final corner there, lap after lap, finally getting it done. The run that he had up the straight, phenomenal. Let's check out the replay on board here with Garth Tander. started a little bit differently. He didn't quite poke his nose in as early, but he's forced himself wide, compromising that traction that we know the Porsche has off that final corner. Positioned himself beautifully for a nice tow all the way up that straight, if you want to call it a straight here at Hampton Downs. And he had to go pretty damn deep on the brakes there to get the job done. That was well beyond the 100-metre board, so well done to Garth Tander as we go back to the race for second place.
So Tander's scampered clear at the front now. He's been released into clean air, but John Martin still has his mirrors full. It's now Tony D'Alberto beginning to hassle the back of the Porsche. Dan Gaunt's in there, but we know that car's struggling with some dramas in the rear corner of that car.
Yeah, I couldn't help but notice that. The car's really not behaving, so I just wonder if there is something more going on with that number 24 KFC car of Dan Gaunt and Tony Bates.
Also, he's just closed in on the back of this group is Cam McConville, who's a lap down, but just set the fastest lap of the race in this Lamborghini Huracan GT3. But we now focus on the number 1 Audi. It is Garth Tander at the wheel, just half a lap from home as we see Tony D'Alberto just have a little bit of a look at the rear end of John Martin, not far away from crowning someone Australian GT champion. We don't know who that's going to be yet. As we see Dan Gaunt look to buy in, it's all happening here. Just 2 corners left, 1 corner left now.
And the racing we've seen over the last few laps of this race, it's still not coming to an end. Obviously, a lot of conviction required to get those moves done. Tony D'Alberto there defending and attacking at the same time.
And holding on to that 3rd place, he's going to carry that one through to the line. And in doing so, he's going to confirm himself and Max Twigg as Australian Endurance Champions for 2018. 2nd place goes to Liam Talbot and John Martin. By winning the race, Garth Tander hands Jeff Emery his 2nd CAMS Australian GT Championship.
A few of us were there to witness you collect a special trophy at the CAMS Awards last year. Can you believe this?
I cannot believe it, mate. Honestly, we came in this weekend, the underdogs. Obviously, we came in here in 4th position with a lot of work to do, and obviously we pulled it through. I can't believe it.
Nail-biting day. You were pacing.
Oh, mate, I was pacing up and down. I just couldn't believe what was unfolding. Could not believe it.
This way, guys.
You both fought hard, but was it a case of you could only fight so much?
Yeah, exactly. Look, we just didn't have the pace today. Like, the thing was just, that was all she had, really. So I was driving it absolutely flat out. I knew we had to win, and I tried hard, but obviously tried to race fair as well. So it's, a good battle with Garth there at the end. He was putting us under the pump. His car was quite quick in a few places. I thought he was too far back, but he got us anyway. So
we did the best we could, and couldn't be proud of John, the team, our sponsors like Hot Wheels Car Care, Hardy Brothers, Wash It. Just having that support is unreal.
You had to work for that, didn't you?
I certainly did have to work for it. To be honest, we weren't really hunting that hard for the podium, but to get a P3 today, Maxi did a stellar job in his stint, and I've really got to thank Scott Taylor Motorsport and Maxi and all the boys. Like, such a good effort. We entered the championship this year, probably not even anticipating to be in this position. So yeah, I'm rapt to claim the championship.
That's what we'll chase from the start. We only ever entered the enduro races, so that was the number 1 goal to do it. So we got it. It was done.
The champagne is sprayed here at the end of the Hampton Downs 500. We're going to do it all again here, though, in December with Mad Mike Summer Bash. Then we've got Legends of Bathurst in January.